Good evening, I'm Peter Jones from the Kajuen group, and this video, firstly, it's going to be more wordy than doey, so if you've come to my YouTube channel looking for a cool technique, look away, that's not what you're going to get here. But this video, this is an important video to me, this is a message that I'm very keen to get across. And what I want to present to you now is my feeling that the majority of martial arts instructors that claim to teach self-protection do not teach the reality of violent attacks, and this is what I want to cover and address here. I'm keen to say I mean no disrespect to anybody, because there are some fantastic martial arts self-protection instructors out there. I'm fortunate enough to be taught by some of them, but I stand by my feeling and I'll explain why. This video is born out of a conversation I had with Rory Miller. If you haven't had the pleasure of training with Mr. Miller, seek him out. He does tend to come to the UK every year at the moment. He's a police officer with the Los Angeles Police Department, and he's one of the foremost teachers of pragmatic self-protection and the nature of violence in the world. You train with him, this gentleman is an absolute supernova of information, and he will make you rethink your concept of violence and how you address it in your club. And I've had the pleasure of training with him twice now. The conversation I had with Rory went to the effect of he's frustrated that people are blindly following what he does without thinking for themselves. It's almost like, well, Rory says this, so this is the way it is, and that shouldn't be the way. And where he was impressed by me is having trained with him once and having learned his system of 3 wrist locks. And I should add, Rory's one of the very few people in the world that can make wrist locks work in a pragmatic fashion. Now, he's got a 3 wrist lock model, and I'm not going to give that away. If you want that information, go train with him. I personally, despite having trained with him, I've got a 6 wrist lock model, and that's because I approach things from a biomechanical perspective because of my occupation, which I'll come back to. And Rory was impressed that even though I've learned his method, I haven't just gone, well, Rory says there are 3 wrist locks, so there are 3 wrist locks. Instead, I've gone, okay, great, but I've got this model, and this is why. And he said, great, so I'm thinking for myself, and more people should do that. My way of thinking is this. I said, Rory, the problem is that we can't all be experts in everything that we do. Life isn't like that. We don't have enough years in our lifetime. We can only get expertise in a small number of fields. I mean, the example I would give here is if you have a health problem, you're going to go and see a GP. You're going to go and trust yourselves to a healthcare professional, such as myself. I am a specialist in treating acute injuries, but I know sod all about cars. I can change a tyre. At a push, I'll change a headlight bulb. But anything beyond that, I'm going to have to take my car to a garage and trust the experts. And increasingly, people are becoming more critically minded and questioning the experts, and so they should. You know, if you're not happy with the diagnosis that your GP gives you, if you don't think that the diagnosis fits your symptoms, people are more inclined to either speak up or seek out another expert. And equally so, you know, I'm going to trust my car to a mechanic, but if the mechanic says, yes, Mr. Jones, your headlight's out, but the thing you've got with your car is all your lights are wired in serial, so every light cluster needs a AAA overhead manifold sprocket, and it's going to cost you 100 quid a piece. I'm going to scream bullshit. But people don't tend to do this with martial arts. The experts tell us that violence doesn't typically happen at this range. Okay, and I've been to many seminars where you get 4 or 6 sensei, and they're all teaching defence where the attack is a step through and hook punch. And I've done that as well. It's a great platform to hang things off. The movement can give you some great throws, great techniques. And does it happen in reality? Yeah, okay, it does. But not as often as these people would have you believe. Now, the experts in this case, and I'm talking about people like Ian Abernethy, Chris Wilder, Rory Miller, Peter Constantine, they all tell us that violence happens at this range. Okay? It doesn't happen over here. It happens at close range. Now, here's where my expertise comes in. Here's where me thinking for myself comes in. I've referenced my profession. By profession, I'm an emergency nurse practitioner. So I'm a nurse with specialist skills. And as part of that, I routinely treat both the victims of violence, be it, altercations outside public houses, and indeed the victims of domestic abuse. So, a spouse has physically abused their partner. Equally so, I will treat perpetrators of violence because police will bring me in people wearing their lovely chain bracelets, and I've got to treat them. I take extensive notes because my notes are legal documents, and I want to establish exactly what's happened, how many strikes there have been, where they've been hit, and any other injuries and this kind of thing. And my notes say, it can be used in court or used by insurance companies. So as a result of this, I've come to my own conclusions. And from all the people that I've interviewed that have carried out or been the victims of violence, interestingly, my conclusion is that the experts that I've thus far referenced are right. Okay? It's true. I've had, I think, one case ever, it was on a football pitch actually, where somebody was actually attacked by a swinging hook punch from a distance. Everybody else I've treated, the story I get, in whatever context, is consistent. Where you get proprioceptive contact and then multiple strikes. Okay? Not just one. You don't get, what you get is here. And multiple strikes. Okay? And of course, he's going to throw his hands up, it's going to become random, but it will be repeatedly slamming into his head. And this is, as I say, a consistent story. If I just bring on Olivia for a second. Now, yes, I grant you, I've fallen into the trap of going like male on female violence. It's the 21st century, it doesn't happen like that anymore. Increasingly, we're getting female on male domestic violence. We're getting male on male and female on female when you get gay relationships. The nature of the physical aspect of the violence is exactly the same, and these poor ladies that I treat, whose husbands frankly have probably got penises the size of peas, what they consistently tell me is that their hair has been held, so they can't escape, and again, they've been punched repeatedly. Okay, so there's always this proprioceptive hold, followed by the multiple strikes. And yet, as martial artists, we don't tend to cover that. We tend to cover this. And this is what I want to address. Now, before I actually go into technique, thanks Olivia. Before I actually go into technique, it's worth emphasising that physical aspects should be the last 2% really of self-defence. You need to look at your awareness, avoidance, escape, look at risk factors. So, for men, we know that you're most at risk of violence aged 18 to 25 in or near a place that serves alcohol, where there's alcohol involved. So be aware of your surroundings, don't go out and get paralytic, go out and drunks, and don't be the kind of dick that somebody wants to punch. For ladies, we know that they're most at risk of violence in a domestic situation, so be aware of the signs of domestic abuse, controlling behaviour, critical behaviour, and understand what is a toxic relationship. And therefore to kind of diffuse that situation before it becomes violent. So with all that said, let's do some technique, shall we? So if I bring on Rory, just really to give Paul Sensei with a break from being beaten. So what I want to do, to kind of give you this shift in thinking, I'm going to be less concerned about that, and I'm going to deal with this, which I'm calling the trigger. That's the trigger that something's about to be fired. So whereas, typically we would be going, right, okay, hook punch, here we go, lovely. Or indeed, different martial arts are going to be kind of entering and throwing from there and whatever. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to focus on this left hand. Oh, by the way, 90% of people are right-handed, therefore 90% of attacks will be with the right hand, correct? Interestingly not. It's very rarely ever that power punch is with the left. It's nearly always with the right. Nearly always, 99% of the times with the right. So I'm going to be dealing with a left-handed grab, and that's my point. At the point that Rory actually gets a hold of me, my likelihood of escaping this is remote. I always take the assumption that the attacker is bigger and stronger than you, because why would you attack somebody bigger and stronger than you that's, you might get hurt? And certainly, we talk about domestic abuse, that's often going to be the way when it's male on female, So I tend to take the line of once this has got a hold, you're not going to escape. Okay, this grip. And all the time I focus on this, what's Rory going to be doing? Yeah, exactly. So the first thing is spot the trigger. So at the point this left hand moves, okay, making space and checking that trigger. My hand's already going up. So by sticking this left hand up, I'm already prepared for that right hand punch, and I'm already prepared for doing some damage at the top here. So, and we can go in multiple directions. It's going to be kind of really dependent on how your personal kind of alarm response is going to work. But kind of the first technique that I want to be looking at is just get rid of this trigger and be prepared for the hook punch. Don't let this take a hold and then have to deal with the hook punch, because it's just not going to be a good day. Last time, yeah. So, I failed, and he's got a hold. Again, I've got to focus on that. But all the time I'm focusing on this, whilst this has got a hold of me, he's still damaging me. I've got to deal with the whole attack, not just this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw my hands up, because I've got to protect my head. I'm then going to drop my arm, a heavy hand if you like, straight onto the bicep. Okay, get this response. You do that, it contorts the body. He's not going to hit me. What am I going to do with this? I'm going to use the forces I've just generated to respond here. Okay, so I've now got space, I've got control. I can hold him in place, and then there's my power strike, which I'm sure Rory's very grateful for my accuracy and control on. So, hand up, consider that, drop, hit. The take-home message from this video is if you're going to teach self-defense, great, more people should do it, but don't say we're going to do self-defense. We're going to do self-defense, okay? And it's going to be proprioception, okay? That's what you're going to be dealing with, okay? This, the trigger. So, I hope that made sense to you. This is a very important video to me. I did want to get this message out. I do want to make people think. I do hope this is a benefit to people, either instructors watching or indeed people that are encountering this. Who knows, maybe somebody watches the video and goes, actually, I see what it means. That is what happens to me at home. I do need to do something about this. So my thanks to my 3 Uki for this evening, and my thanks to my cameraman, and hope to see you all in the dojo.